shattered dreams. End of times ain't what it seems.
Hello, friends. This is Sam Chaney reporting for Weaponized News. Today, September 12th, 2025. Thank you for joining us on this Friday edition of Weaponized News. The world's on fire. Everything's gone insane. We have a very special guest on the line with us today, William Ramsey of William Ramsey Investigates. And I swear to you guys, we set this up like 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, something like this, way before the Charlie Kirk assassination happened. And so just coincidentally enough, the day after 9/11, we have this show to go ahead and break it all down. And we got to ask these questions. The government says the case is closed already. They got blasted the lone gunman's face all over the media. And that's the narrative they're going with as the FBI director, the governor of Utah, both with their Occult 33 references. It took 33 hours to capture, and we have video of that. It's just all speaks to something else is going on. I'm not claiming, I don't think William would either, to know exactly what's going on, but there's just so much sketchy stuff. And for the government to come out, oh, we got the guy. It's this Tyler Robinson, 22-year-old son of a cop, star student, but full of hate, right? And was radicalized supposedly on the interwebs. It just all stinks. It all stinks. Let's get to this day in history quickly, and then we'll segue and bring on William Ramsey so we don't waste too much time. I found it very well, two this days in history, because it ties into the themes that all this stuff is, all the recent events going all the way back to 1755. On this day, Gino Como Casanova is sentenced to 5 years imprisonment in Venice without trial for affronts to religious and common decency. And that speaks to why due process is so important. And we're flushing it down the toilet right now with MAGA and Republicans' help. And it's making me sick to my stomach, honestly. So that speaks to why due process is so important. And then tying in to the Manchurian Candidate and MK Ultra story is, coincidentally enough, on this day in 1970, U.S. LSD advocate Dr. Timothy Leary escapes from a California jail. And with that, let's segue to, quickly, there was a UN General Assembly vote today for backing Palestinian statehood within the 1976 borders. That vote turned out to be 142 to 10. And of course, the usual suspects voting against it would be the United States and, of course, Aardvark land. And who was it? Who else was it? I believe Hungary. And your usual suspects, a couple of these little islands. And so it's being deemed the New York Declaration, which outlines tangible, time-bound, and irreversible steps toward a two-state solution. There's more to come, though. More countries to go to the UN to officially recognize Palestinian statehood coming up later this month. The initiative today, the New York Declaration, was presented to the United Nations by strange bedfellows, maybe not, but France and Saudi Arabia. The 7-page document called for a collective action to end the war in Gaza to achieve a just, peaceful, and lasting settlement of the Israeli-Palestine conflict based on the effective implementation of a two-state solution. And basically, Israel laughs as they continue to level all of Gaza City here now. And what was it? Aardvark's official response was they rejected the declaration, slamming it as disgraceful. And of course, we wouldn't have expected anything less. So all of that went on as the large majority of the attention is still directed toward Charlie Kirk. Here is, and his assassination. Here is a young man arriving at Turning Point USA. Of course, that was Charlie Kirk was the head of that outfit. As as we said on Wednesday's broadcast, we are at a turning point here now. It seems like in America and the whole world. Segue to William Ramsey, a dedication here of bagpipes in front of Turning Point USA headquarters for Charlie Kirk's memorial. Very sad day indeed. And of course, the regular suspects, the government, and the rest of their, let's just call them all government at this point, all their propagandists on the interwebs, they want a war. They're trying to, and of course, playing right into the classic divide and conquer, balkanization techniques of empire. And you would think someday we would learn, but hey, let's blame a left-wing transgender from Furby from outer space. That was the whole narrative for like 2 days, and now we got this other patsy, and it's just all smells like it all smells like MK Ultra, Manchurian Candidate, Assassin to me. I don't know, call me crazy. Anyway, here's the segue, bagpipes, bless Charlie Kirk's soul. William Ramsey, author, researcher, podcaster. You go deep on the occult topics that not many other people go there, and amazing work that you're putting out there on the interwebs. WilliamRamseyInvestigates.com. How you doing this Friday, sir?
Could be better. It's been a rough week, but thanks for having me back. It's great to be with you, Sam. It's been too long, but it is amazing our timing. Like, it's horrible things. Like, it's a worldwide event. Charlie Kirk is being memorialized all over the world. So, and it's very suspicious, like you said, weird numerology. And it's weird, too, because there's been so many assassins and so many deaths, including this guy, supposedly we're told Tyler Robinson. But I got into this subject matter because there were so many other assassins in the news. And there's been so many. They've almost, like, become legends in the United States, kind of like serial killers. But these
here's the mugshots, William, of side by side. Somebody on the interwebs there, Jordan Crowder on the X, put up the alleged assassin of Kirk and the alleged assassin of JFK, Lee Harvey Oswald. And of course, he famously said before Jack Ruby shot him, "I'm a patsy," right?
You should.
And so strange coincidences. And we know also they're doing occult rituals behind all this stuff that's not talked about enough. And so they're getting their power out of that. It's insane, man.
It's really crazy. There's a really good picture on the internet, too, of Luigi Mangione.
That's another one, right?
Yeah, right next to Oswald. They're both wearing the same kind of clothes.
Potential MK Ultra Manchurian assassin there as well.
Yeah. Real personality change. Mangione was kind of like a winner. He was like the top of his class. He went to a private school that was expensive. He came from a wealthy family. Then he gets this interest in Kaczynski and decides to go from Hawaii to downtown New York City and shoot a CEO supposedly at 7 a.m. in the morning. Make that make sense.
None of it makes any sense.
None of it makes sense. But then you have to look at all these other. There was another one the same day as Charlie Cook. Rest in peace, Charlie Cook. He didn't deserve it. He was shot in front of his wife and kids too, which is just totally dark and evil. And it'll be a day that lives in infamy. He's kind of a different generation than mine, but I appreciated his ability to want to actually have dialogue and actually want to talk to different people and not so. I think that's an attack on kind of free speech and crossing party lines too, or separate divides. So now it's even, like you said, divide and conquer. Now it's even more division. So that's bad news for us. It's a sad day for all Americans, really. So anybody who celebrates this is spiritually sick, in my opinion. But there's been other shooters.
We quickly. It's also announced very quietly under the radar. Trump is going to send National Guard. Was announced today by the White House into Memphis, Tennessee, to help with the quote crime emergency. And so they're rolling out potential police state martial law here in America. All of that is like very quiet now with this news of Kirk assassination taking over all of the airwaves.
Yeah, it sure is. It's very interesting. A lot of strange things have happened. And also people have tried to move into his space. So it's almost like some of these
Ben Shapiro said, there's video of Ben Shapiro. I can't even play it because the guy makes me want to puke, saying that he's now going to take over the mantle of Charlie Kirk at Turning Point USA. And we know he's a self-admitted proud Zionist waving Israel flag everywhere.
So did the dildo rabbi.
Oh man, that guy is obviously a provocateur, right? He's like your stereotypical meme of a Jew on the internet and goes out and acts crazy, provocative, trying to incite antiseptic behavior against them. Obviously,
I think you're right. But what's interesting, these guys are totally shameless. They didn't even have Charlie Kirk has not been buried yet. And they moved in right away. Right. This is really suspicious.
Well, they see the profit. I'm not trying to profiteer off Charlie Kirk's death, but like one of my biggest videos I had in a long time on Rumble was just reporting 2 days ago when it occurred about it. I got over 1,000 views on it. It's like, wow. You know what I mean? But so they see it's popular. They're going to try to capitalize on the clicks for sure.
Turning Point wasn't some small outfit. It wasn't like thing. It had huge cultural import, and it generated $80 million a year. So it was a decent sized business in itself. Charlie Kirk was an important figure.
Well, chapters all over at probably almost every university in the country and junior colleges as well.
Right. So these guys moved into that space. And if you see this history of assassinations, especially since JFK, whose anniversary is coming up soon, a couple months, there's people in the wings. So like when they killed MLK, Jesse Jackson was right there to move in.
Right there, literally right there.
Dipped his blood in MLK, then came on, but he's a more benign, pliable, less in your face kind of civil rights leader. You could give Jesse some money and some women, and he's fine. You know what I mean? These things happen. You have to look at these assassinations about who's going into place as well. Because some of these people,
who's going to fill that void?
JFK to Johnson, right? That's very important. RFK to the Nixon ends up winning the election, right? That's 68, I believe. So many of these things, like there's somebody's in behind. If Reagan died from Hinckley, guess who slips into power?
Oh, the former head of the CIA, George Bush.
Right. So these are so Charlie Kirk. It's just so weird. One of the strange things about Kirk, about the day, and I really kind of like I had a couple interviews that I canceled so I could kind of follow the news. There were strange things that were very similar to the JFK assassination to Charlie Kirk. There were two fake arrests. One was a guy who was like in other places at strange times saying, shoot me, and he's a distraction. So what's he doing there? Taking up police resources and stuff. And then the police also arrested another guy with like an air gun, but he looked like he could have been, maybe the other shooter or this guy, Tyler Robinson. So that kind of connotes to me or imparts to me that there's forethought, that this isn't just a lone nut. They'll make it a lone nut. All of these guys, the MK assassination, they're all turned into lone nuts, right?
It's a lone nut. Allegedly, they're reporting that they found some weird inscriptions on the shell casings. Right. Like implying he's some kind of incel, left-wing, weird guy.
That's the new model. So Robin Westman, really, if you remember him, that's the guy for the church shooter. He had all of the kind of nomenclature of the modern assassin all over his stuff. He wrote stuff about other shooters and things like that. And it referenced Cremo. If you remember Robert Cremo, he was, I think, in Minnesota too, where he shot and killed 7 people in on a parade route, dressed as a woman. Do you remember that?
I remember that. That was a very bizarre one. Yeah.
There's so many. And then there was recently, just this year, this guy Nikita Kasap, who was going to kill Trump. He was actually one of the Trump assassins, and he killed his parents. And he was associated with the Order of 9A. I think you and I did the Global Death Cult book, right? And that ties into that. So that's kind of why I went back to this kind of concept of the Manchurian Candidate and the film, because I think there's a lot of information in the film. There was a book written by Richard Condon that came out in 1959, and then the film came out in 62. And there's a lot of, Condon was very well researched. Condon actually went out later, would write the intro to like one of the more important mind control books called Operation Mind Control by Bauert. So Condon wrote the intro to that. Like he was knowledgeable. And I think that that's kind of one of those films, like you can call it entertainment, but there's films that portray to us the facts behind the scenes. And I think Manchurian Candidate's like that, much like Eyes Wide Shut, or maybe some of these other films that really show how things happen. That's why I think that Manchurian Candidate is in that grouping. But it's about kind of somebody being handled and put into place. Like this is a total spoiler, but like the main character, his name is Raymond Shaw. He's taken, he's brought into this place in Manchuria. He's mind control programmed. He's sent to the United States to assassinate somebody at a nominating convention in Madison Square Garden. And it's full of occultism. Actually, Condon put in a bunch of 11s.
And this is and it's all based off of U.S. prisoners of war in Korea being mind controlled, experimented on by the Korean communists.
Precisely, yeah. It's a real story. So those are real stories. There was a real interest in the 50s. Before MK Ultra, we know MK Ultra was started by Alan Dulles in 53. But there was a real concern about Cold War mind control techniques. And they had seen some of these guys who were fighter pilots who were captured, and they came back and they had undergone thought reform or behavioral modification. So there was a real interest amongst the elites here in the U.S. about all this stuff. And so the Korean War was 1950 to 1953. And that's really where all this stuff kind of ramped up, really after World War II, was this kind of mind control stuff. So the Manchurian Candidate came out in this environment of the interest in behavioral control and the kind of growth of like drugs and things like that. There's a lot of kind of LSD was kind of, it hadn't been popularized like that into the 60s, but it was being used and used and implemented in secret mind control experiments in the 50s.
William, have you seen the latest news on LSD? They're floating the idea. This is, I reported on it a couple of days ago, but I just pulled this one up again. A single dose of LSD treatment could keep anxiety at bay for months. They're trying to roll it out now as some type of treatment for mental health, anxiety disorder, generalized anxiety disorder, GSA. And now they're saying that seems pretty hardcore to me, man. Have you ever done LSD, William?
When I was much younger, when I was like 18. I'm
56. I did some about 30 years ago.
Yeah. I think it was because it was very much in vogue and people talked about it. So like a dumbass, like a stupid lemming, I was like, okay, well, let's do it. And I just felt stoned, and I kind of scratched that itch. So I was very fortunate because I know some people who got into psychedelics and they really changed them for the worst, like heavy duty stuff.
It's serious. It's a serious drug, but they're trying to roll it out now for anxiety treatment.
It's stupid. There were people who were ruined in the 60s. They went insane. They literally,
especially when you're dosed. Part of MK Ultra was dosing people without their knowledge of it, and so all of a sudden you just start having hallucinations, right? And it's like, what the hell's going on? And that could seriously, and it did drive people literally insane to the point of suicide, even.
Yeah, there's really a famous case of Frank Olson in 1953, where he was secretly dosed and he didn't like it, but he was in the environment of people secretly dosing one another. And then he supposedly jumped out of a building and died, just like what the CIA writes in its assassination manual about how to kill somebody and get away with it, is chuck him out of a high building because all the evidence is destroyed. And he was kind of a whistleblower. He was actually one of the good guys, in my opinion, and he met an untimely death. But there's a really good show, at least it used to be on Netflix, called Wormwood by Errol Morris, that goes into that and has this family member in their search, because a lot of this stuff was done in secret. So a lot of these things happened. They couldn't kind of penetrate the classification regimen that the U.S. government and its, people in the so-called deep state would roll out to keep this stuff secret. And so many families didn't really know why their family member went crazy. They just know they went into the hospital and came out a different person. And some people went in for very benign stuff, like you said, anxiety. People have anxiety. So
that's why I see these stories today. I'm like, what the hell is the MK Ultra again? They're doing it again, and using the cover as, hey, we just care about you and your anxiety. And it's like, oh hell no! Look what these guys have already done. This is crazy.
I think they refined the technique over time. So
sure,
I think that
because it's all experiments leading up to your perfect Manchurian Candidate to go do assassination. It wasn't only drugs. There's hypnosis, sensory deprivation, torture, lobotomies, and it just goes on and on and on with the insane experiments that these mind-controlled scientists, doctors were doing on people and continue to do to this day, I believe.
They had benign names like psychosurgery, but that's basically kind of like a lobotomy, where they literally go into your brain and make sure that you don't have any long-term memory, so that you're almost like that in that movie where the guy doesn't have any long-term memory. Like they did incredible. They did implants, like they never admitted it, but one of the main guys, his name was Jose Delgado. He was at Yale, and you can see a video of him forcing a bull to stop with implants, electrodes in its brain, remote controlled by radio. So there's no wires. Like literally he hit a button and the bull would stop. And they asked him, did they ever try out on humans? And he says, experiments were done. He never said specifically what they did. But that goes back to this whole notion of classification about this stuff. So it was all classified, so the public can never see it because it's all national security, right? But you mentioned all these terms and stuff. There's a really important case that came out just in July. It got verified or validated as a class action in Canada. It's called Chaney versus McGill University and the Victoria Hospital and the AG of Canada. And it's really this history of Ewan Cameron and his really crazy deranged experiments that are very complex, and these techniques they're using and winnowing and refining, just like you said, over time. But it's the history of it all the way up to the present day, and it got certified. And what that'll do is that the class will then expand because people will come in and join the class, right? So as a kind of informational disclosure function of this lawsuit, which is public, it will get more and more information that we can read and stuff. So it's a public kind of document. It was published in the court system in Canada. It's an amazing case because it goes through all. They actually mentioned Frank Olson, who I just mentioned. They mentioned a whole bunch of other people, Ewan Cameron, that we know, and some of the lesser known kind of MK doctors that were around that had externally very normal, what would you say, like public, perceptions. They were Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So in the public, they're psychiatrists or psychologists helping people out. And then during the day, they're doing crazy experiments on unwitting subjects in total violation of the Hippocratic Oath and of common, consent. Like these people did not consent to this stuff. So it's really crazy. I mean, this is the context of this Manchurian Candidate and all these strange events that we've endured since the JFK assassination. The JFK assassination was obviously a pivotal event for our country, much like Charlie Kirk. But I think that's why the importance of this film is because, get this, the film, the Manchurian Candidate, was okayed by JFK personally and the decision to make it was made by JFK and Sinatra together. So JFK's power as president greenlit Hollywood to give the okay to make this film. So his actual involvement in the film is really something else. And then a year later, this kind of Manchurian patsy, if you look into Oswald, he gets weirder and weirder. He's obviously not a full lone nut. He's being handled much like the character in the Manchurian Candidate, Raymond Shaw. Oswald has all these handlers and they're moving him around. And like Raymond Shaw,
all the weird stuff with Oswald going back and forth to the Soviet Union.
Exactly. Much like this guy who, Raymond Shaw, right? He's in Manchuria, he's in communist China, and then he gets brought back for the big event. And Oswald's the same way. He was at Atsugi, and we know they were doing, you mentioned LSD. They were doing LSD experiments at Atsugi in the 50s, early 50s. We know that. There's actually a document you can see on some of these FOI things where after Frank Olson died in 53, Alan Dulles himself wrote a letter to Atsugi and said, pause all LSD experimentation. So that means they were experimenting with LSD at Atsugi, which Oswald was there in 57. And then in like 50, he gets brought back to the States. Then he so-called defects. And there's paper, like he's noted in the papers as a defector. He's in
William, in this article from Wired magazine, it talks about more than 30 universities and institutions participated in CIA-funded research for working with MK Ultra experiments.
It was a huge program. There were 149 sub-projects, and it was funded with millions and millions of dollars. It wasn't some kind of like fly-by-night thing that happened in one place.
And what we're talking about is just what's been disclosed, declassified, and other whistleblower testimony and so on. Imagine how much we don't even know that went on.
That's an excellent point. MK Ultra was the research component. We don't know what they did with all that stuff. But like some of these things, like you think that it's all just kind of, drugs and warping the mind. But some of the experiments were creating cults. Like if you know the Course in Miracles that's promoted by Oprah and Marianne Williamson, are you familiar with that? That comes out of an MK Ultra sub project. Like literally, it's bandied around. It's bandied around by like these New Agers. They have no idea that these two psychologists who did it were paid by the MK Ultra funds. Like you cannot write this stuff.
They're like, here's a mind control program to help get your cult followers in line.
It's a series of self-guided kind of meditations. Like you repeat this stuff and you read it, and there's like a course. It's a course in miracles. So it's really becomes much more sinister when you realize where it came out of. So look up A Course in Miracles. It'll blow your mind. So these are just other elements. We don't know what other cults they made, whether it's the Manson family or anything like that. But what I think they pulled off and what they aggregated would blow people's mind. But Oswald's a perfect example of this guy who was handled as a patsy. He was brought back to the U.S. and he had all these guys overseeing him and pretty much watching him for the rest of his life when he died at 24. And the list is very long. David Ferry, Clay Shaw, who Garrison charged with a criminal conspiracy to kill JFK in 67, I believe. De Mohrenschildt, who's also Russian, who came to the U.S., and then Ruth Payne, who found the rifle, right? So even this thing today, this story about the rifle and Robinson and Charlie Kirk, excuse me.
They found the rifle in the woods. They say nice package there for them. All the evidence that you need to close the case.
They found the rifle that supposedly Oswald used at Payne's house. This woman, Ruth Payne, who just passed away. She literally passed away like a week ago or something like that. But it's just really incredible how he was overseen and how Oswald was handled all the way. Ruth Payne came in. She did there's a really good documentary about it called The Assassination and Miss Payne by Max Good. I would check it out. But
let me play these clips quickly here for you. William, here's the where they're doing the 33 reference. Both of them do it here. First, the Utah Governor Cox. Let's watch this short clip, and then we'll go to Kash Patel, director of the FBI, both making these occult 33 references. It's just, come on, man. You know?
You know, this bad stuff happens. And for 33 hours, I was praying that if this had to happen here, that it wouldn't be one of us. That somebody drove from another state, somebody came from another country. Sadly, that prayer was not answered the way I hoped for. Just because I thought it would make it easier on us if we could just say, hey, we don't do that here. And indeed, Utah is a special place. We lead the nation in charitable giving. We lead the nation in service every year. But it did happen here.
He's like implying he wishes that we could blame a foreign country to start a war. That's insane. And I like how when he said the 33, he looks back at old Patel. Here's Patel. About it took 33 hours out there. It's just like, come on. And then people zeroed in and they're like, is this some kind of beehive, Masonic lapel pin that he has on as well? I don't know. But
it is Masonic. There's no question about it. In Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike wrote that the average Masonic lodge will look to the outsiders as a beehive, and they'll never see the activity that goes on inside. So it's a direct Masonic symbol.
Let's see from Kash Patel here now. It's just, wow.
Myself and Deputy Director Bongino arrived on the scene at approximately 5:30 p.m. on 9/11. The governor led a press conference last night at approximately 8 p.m. where at my direction the FBI released a never-before-seen video of the suspect. We also released new images to the public of the suspect. And just last night, the suspect was taken into custody at 10 p.m. local time. In less than 36 hours, 33 to be precise, thanks to the full weight of the federal government and leading out with the partners here in the state of Utah and Governor Cox, the suspect was apprehended in a historic time period.
You got a 9/11 in there too, right?
He did.
11 is the number of magic. Maybe you can play that video that I sent you about the Illuminati numbers in Manchurian Candidate. This is written by Condon. There's 11 people. So when they get taken into Manchuria, it's an 11-man troop or 11-man unit. So like he's implying that this is a magical act. I think Condon is implying that. I don't know, is this playing or not? No. So then it's like a magical act into the minds of America. This is an important. He writes, Yen Lo had inserted so many new values and perspectives into minds of the 11 Americans. So like they're literally like thought control, thought things. The main character, Raymond Shaw, is like everything he does it at 11 o'clock. There's a 9/11 in this. 911 names were stricken from the list. The lesser decorations forthwith created.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so he like wins the Medal of Honor. They structure it so that Raymond Shaw wins the Medal of Honor in this. It's really crazy. Total immersion time into the this is like they're saying magic. Total immersion time into the unconscious mind of the subject during the first contact had been 11 hours. The critical application of deep suggestion was observed during the first 11 hours of immersion. So it's really crazy. Like they're literally putting it in there. And then when Sinatra has his really bad dream, the first thing, this is the beginning of the film, it happens at 3:11, right? So it's another 11. And you can see it right there on that clock on the left, right? And then there's a 77 here. We can watch this video. Can you hear that audio?
No, I think you had to share it with the audio. I think you missed that button.
Let me see if I can figure it out.
When you go to share it, it asks you at the bottom. There's like a little slider button and it says share audio. I think something like that. You might have to reshare it.
Close window.
Wow, folks, as William tries to figure that out, it's just there's too many coincidences for my mind to say that this is not deep occult mind control programs. And they're using all this numerology as signals as part of the programming for their Manchurian candidates, and also to mock the rest of us. Demoralization program going on as well for for our audience, for William and I that are skeptical of what goes on and questioning this stuff, and have done a little bit of research. William's done way more research than me, but I believe for us that are skeptics, it's very demoralizing just throwing this stuff in our face. Let's try
I think that's the point. People have called it strategy of tension. They've called it gladio. I call it collective psychic driving. Like, I think that's really it. Like, I think part of the Kirk thing is the infliction of trauma. Like,
for
I
sure,
don't think
trauma-based mind control.
Yeah. And then society adjusts, and everybody, they don't get as uppity. You know, they're not as like, whoa, we are scared now. This is fear. And even in the CIA documents, they had this concept of debility and dread. There was like 3 Ds or something.
And Charlie Kirk's assassination was a tragedy, but hey, nobody's talking about 9/11 anymore. You know what I mean? And everybody should be screaming, what the hell happened on 9/11? And that's like mum the word.
Right, exactly. Right. I can't figure out how to find the audio. I don't
Can't get audio there?
I can try. Let's see. Stop. Share window. I don't see where this whole thing is. Where share this window.
They don't let you do audio.
Okay, let me see. Mic mode. Center overlay. Standard.
The perils of live streaming here, trying to do it, figure it out live.
Can you hear that now? Can you hear that?
No, still no audio.
Okay. Let me pull this up.
We can play it. Maybe you can narrate it.
Can you hear that?
No. I think you missed. There's like a little slider button that turns on the audio. Sorry about that. We're trying to produce this show live, but
forget it. It's too much. I don't know how to do it. I don't know. I don't use stream often.
I found this an interesting coincidence as well. All of your ex-influencers here, it looks like they all got the same memo. They're all reading off the same script here, calling for a war. They've declared war. I don't even know what happened, honestly. And hey, we never trust the government. They told the government set up Trump, and they used lawfare against them. But now all of a sudden we trust the government because they said so, because our guy's in there. Well, what? That's
right. I mean, it's really bad. We're in bad shape. I think we're in really bad shape. So these are just some slides about the film and things like that. Janet Leigh is the mother of Jamie Lee Curtis.
Do you believe the film in and of itself is a mind control tool?
I think it exposes it, believe it or not. So it could be seen as that. I don't think that they're really trying to hypnotize the audience. There's a couple weird sequences in there, but I think they're really trying to show that some of this stuff is actually plausible.
Like kind of soft disclosure that this technology does exist.
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember this movie was taken out of circulation for 25 years. It wasn't reshown until 1997 or 1998. And I think
then they did the remake. They did a remake with Denzel Washington, right?
Correct. I didn't think that was as good as the original, but the remake is interesting in itself. But yeah, the book is really good. I would highly. It's not too long. It's about 200 pages, but these it just shows a bunch. These are the assassins that I have. Crooks, and who's mysterious as heck. We don't know much about him. Ruth, who sits around smiling.
But he was Crooks was in the BlackRock commercial. Remember that weird thing?
Yeah. I think both of these guys were, right?
Was that guy in it too?
I thought there were 2 of them were in there. Yeah, I think Ruth was in there too. Which is really strange. Like, what's BlackRock doing? Ruth is like smiling. He's not looking guilty at all.
Another one of that guy the last guy, Ruth, right? Another one of these weird, had these weird overseas connections with Ukraine.
He was moving around in weird places. He was actually in Hawaii at one point, about 5 miles from where Chapman was.
Didn't have a job, wasn't independently wealthy, but could travel the world like a globetrotter.
With no discernible income. Like those are expensive tickets.
To just be flying all over the place at a whim, but this guy was doing it.
Some researchers have connected him to the State Department. So,
jeez.
Yeah, it's really crazy. So, during the Biden administration. Mangione, really strange, kind of brought him out like McVeigh.
And wasn't it all staged, his perp walk? I mean, that was staged for that picture right there.
Yeah. McVeigh said he had deep state ties, and they put an implant into him, believe it or not. There's Chapman. This is Holmes, the strange shooter, underwent total personality change. Like, he was this kind of like academic who had great grades. And next thing you know,
wasn't he a PhD?
In like neurobiology or something.
Yeah, in mind control, basically. So he was a mind control scientist, or at least in a program studying such neuro. Wow.
Next thing you know, he looks like this. He's dyed his hair orange and acts really.
Next
crazy.
thing you know, they framed him up for a mass shooting.
He was like, my understanding is he was Chapman, like supposedly after the shooting, sat down and opened up Catcher in the Rye, right? And this guy, after this horrific shooting, walked out of the theater and sat down. Like
what is up with that, William? Do you believe there has to be like some key trigger words they programmed into these people's subconscious mind that when they're putting it just feels like they give them the pattern of triggering words, and it triggers the alter of the assassin personality that's been programmed into them.
I think it's like what they show in the Manchurian Candidate. The lead character, Raymond Shaw, they use a Queen of Diamonds because it's a potent symbol of his mother who he hates. So that's kind of like something that triggers something deep in his subconscious that gives him, like, makes him more suggestible on the spot. So I think these guys...
It puts him into a fit of rage where he's ready to kill.
Right. You can deduce that something's up because their personalities have changed. But I don't know the exact techniques, but these guys are in and out of hospitals. They all are Chapmans, Sirhan. They're all in and out of hospitals for some reason. I don't know why. But you can see these patterns. If you study these guys, there's Hinckley.
That's why I would warn, be very careful before you run out and do LSD for anxiety treatment, which they're trying to roll out and mainstream right now.
Yeah, watch out for your psychiatrist too. Like,
exactly.
I don't know who some of these guys are. This is Livelsberger, who January 1st supposedly blew up his truck at the Trump Tower in Vegas, if you remember that.
Yeah.
And then I think Jabbar is the one who drove over a bunch of those people. These guys both had ties to the Fort Bragg. Jabbar ran over like 10 or 15 people in New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah. That was to kick off the Trump administration's second term.
Yeah, it was before he actually was in office too, right? Remember that?
It was during the transition period, yeah.
Exactly. This is what Richard Condon looked like. He's kind of lost to history. It's kind of a shame.
And who is he? What does he have to do with this? Oh, he's the author of the Manchurian.
He's the author of the original book in '59 that it was based on, and he talks about hypnosis and stuff throughout the book. And I think
is intelligence, CIA, MK Ultra feeding this guy narrative, or like how does he know all this stuff?
It's a great question. I couldn't figure it out. One thing I have figured out is that some of the studies and some of these psychiatrists and psychologists were writing papers in magazines around that time. Like, this is before our time, before the internet. So you had to kind of publish stuff in magazines.
Yeah.
But they would publish things about hypnosis and LSD and behavior modification, and interrogation was a huge thing at that time. So if you were a avid reader, you could pick this stuff up out of, out of magazines. You really could. This is just interesting. By the way, the character, the big evil character is Eleanor Eiselden, and she's based on Roy Cohn. So if you know the story of Roy Cohn, he's basically influenced Trump.
Trump's mentor out in New York City, yeah.
Yeah, get me Roy Cohn. That's what Manchuria looks like. It's right above Korea. So that's where these guys, the 11 soldiers were taken.
Yeah, I've seen that documentary, Get Me Roy Cohn, actually, a long time. That was during Trump's first term. And did you see quickly the narrative that Trump was an FBI informant against Epstein? They came out and the White House denied it like 2 days ago, said that's not true. And they had been running with that narrative for a very long time, trying to, separate Trump from Epstein with that.
He was in this most recent drop from the kind of, I forgot the congressperson's name, but he was listed in Epstein's birthday book, I think it's 2003, as one of his friends, like one of his close friends. So the story is that he knew Epstein back in the 90s, right? But this kind of pushes up that date to 2003. And Trump has dodged it and told people he's nobody. And he's
it's a Democrat hoax.
Yeah,
it's just a Democrat hoax.
I think Trump is heavily blackmailed. I mean, I think that they have him.
Right.
And he should know better if he knew Roy Cohn. But I think
that was kind of the same racket Roy Cohn was operating.
He sure was. I think Roy Cohn would bring out little boys and girls too, like really dark stuff. Like, and that's one of the darker things about Epstein. They like to call them teens, but I think there was other things involved too. Yeah, nobody would ever want to admit that or talk about him. Sinatra was in a film in 1954 called Suddenly, where he's in a house and gets a rifle and takes a shot at the president. So it rhymes or like resonates with the JFK assassination. And Sinatra's his close friend. His close friend is JFK. There they are together at some dinner party.
Wow.
In their younger days. Yeah, they're buddies. Sammy Davis Jr. said that Sinatra knew JFK so well that he had a direct phone call tied to the White House. So he could just pick up the phone and call JFK. Calling for JFK. Oh, and JFK would pick it up. This is the kind of resonant symbol for the Manchurian Candidate, the Queen of Diamonds. In the solitaire game, right? They would play solitaire. And this is kind of some of the stills. It starts off with them in Korea in 1952. That's Raymond Shaw, played by Lawrence Harvey. And he's 77. You can see the Medal of Honor around his neck. But there were 77 Medals of Honor given out that year, and he was one of the beneficiaries. There's the 311 before his dream.
And there's a lot of also the movie The Matrix, right? There's 9/11 on Neo's ID card, right? A bunch of 9/11 semblances there. So we see it throughout film. The predictive programming. I don't even know what you call it. What do you call it, William?
I think it's kind of like almost secret society symbolism that they're relating to the public, and the public has no idea about it. So I think,
and they get a chuckle out of the masses being ignorant to their signaling that, hey, we're in on this. We know we got all this covered. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
it's one of our operations, and you can tell through the symbology.
Right. Exactly. So then the other people who are in these secret societies would know right away, like the Masons know right away.
Yeah, no,
against the profane. Like if you're not a Mason, are you?
Am I a Mason? No, yeah. I'm not a Mason. I was baptized a Baptist.
Okay, well, you're one of the profane, Sam.
I know. I understand that.
You're not special.
I understand that.
So, according to at least the,
I'm not an elect.
Right. According to the Masons, you're kind of like somebody. You're just a big one of the blobs that they can.
I have the what's it called? The Manly P. Hall Secret Teachings of All Ages, all-time classic there. So,
Manly P. Hall supposedly hypnotized Sirhan Sirhan. Have you heard that story?
I have not, but it wouldn't surprise me.
Sirhan was passed around all these places. There was one researcher who played Sirhan Sirhan at the Tate residence, at the Tate Polanski residence where they were killed.
And coincidentally enough, he's Palestinian.
Yeah, and he was heavily traumatized. So he was there right at the beginning of Israel, like in 48. And his family had to like live in a church. He was Palestinian Christian, and he had to live in a church, and there was just, it was savage. There was really savage fighting. And he saw it at a very young age. So they say that that's part of the traumatic mind control.
Is
And that
they get them when they're children.
Correct. What happens, those people disassociate a lot easier. That's how they deal with the trauma.
Because the trauma is so intense, experiencing war firsthand for a child, you could see how that would be just so traumatic. You couldn't go on. So you had to, break apart you had to put that away in your subconscious so you didn't have to deal with it.
Exactly. Like seeing people die, like they would poison wells with human bodies and people got raped. I mean, it was really ugly. Like people talk about like, oh, Israel's created. It was created through like bloodshed. There was an Aliyah and a Nakba at the same time. So a lot of Jews from around the world came to Israel and then they kicked out people and put them into Gaza of all places. I think mainly after 67, I'm not sure. But a lot of those people in Gaza were people who lived on other parts of the land. And they were put into these camps. Now they're being genocided, so it's really sad. But that's kind of past history that's still kind of present. This is the famous sequence where these guys are.
Do we think Sinatra, quickly here, William, do we think Sinatra in real life? Because, there's reports from like Kathy O'Brien, one as being a childhood mind control victim, naming all kind of famous politicians, celebrities, and whatnot, saying they're doing this in real life behind the scenes for sex slaves, for other type slaves, assassins. Do we have any reporting if Frank Sinatra was part of that program in real life?
It's a really good question. We know like Marilyn Monroe was with Frank like a week before she died, and he was close to her too, and JFK and RFK were around that whole situation. And her death is very suspicious. And
she was actually, many reports suggest she's a MK Ultra, Project Monarch, mind control sex kitten for the quote elite.
Exactly. So to answer your question, one of the people who's the consultant for this film is a guy named William Joseph Bryan Jr. Have you ever heard his name?
Maybe.
But he was friends with this guy. This guy's a big time like hypnotist controller, but he's friends with Sinatra. That's why he's consulting on this film. He's friends with Melvin Belli, who's Jack Ruby's attorney, and he's also friends with F. Lee Bailey, who's another attorney, OJ attorney, if you remember. But he was a mind control. He actually got censured or brought up by this California State Bar for predating or being a predator for his clients because he would hypnotize them and have sex with them. And he actually got busted trying to bribe one to shut up. He wanted to give her $25,000.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work 100% of the time. That they just forget and shelter that trauma in a hidden away altar of their personality.
Right. That's very right. There's actually a susceptibility scale. There's a famous kind of scale about how many people can like be susceptible to suggestion or induction or hypnotism. But anyway, Dan, the long answer is that he was around that knowledge. There are allegations that he was a kind of enforcer, that Sinatra would beat women and stuff like that. But I don't, it's not part of, I haven't read Search for Candy Jones or whatever. And I haven't read Transformation of America in a while. I've had so much new knowledge that I need to go back through and read those again and kind of glean any information. But Sinatra was, he was a powerful guy. He had very powerful connections. And it wouldn't surprise me if he knew more than like we see him as a celebrity or something like that. Anyway, so this is Yen Lo. He disclosed the guy in the center with the suit. He discloses all the stuff about hypnotism and things that are real, that are in real life. And that's one of the interesting components. And what these guys see, what they're trained to see out, is to see that these are little old ladies at a horticultural event, not bigwigs from the communist world. And then Raymond strangles and kills somebody under control. Sinatra wakes up, He has post-hypnotic suggestion things where he actually says, Raymond Shaw is the kindest, bravest, warmest, most wonderful human being I've ever known in my life, which is totally false. Nobody likes Raymond Shaw, but they all say nice things about him because they've
Sounds like how Trump talks about the new former Al-Qaeda reform radical jihad terrorist president of Syria now.
Right. I mean, it's crazy. It's so crazy out there. The other thing is that Project Artichoke that preceded MK Ultra, they realized they could trigger people into hypnosis using a telephone, and that's related into this film.
Isn't there one with Charles Bronson, like phone call or something from the 70s? I don't know. Something like this, where the guy gets a phone call and it triggers him to go do an assassination.
Interesting. I wouldn't be surprised. There's in Raymond Shaw in the hospital. Yen Lo comes all the way out to the U.S., so he crosses the Iron Curtain and does this.
Now you're saying she's using neuro-linguistic programming techniques?
100%. It's depicted in this. Her kind of her husband.
And what year was this? Did this come out?
59.
59. Wow.
This guy can't remember how many communists there are in the American government, and so and it shows the character of Eleanor Iselin is very sophisticated on psychological states, and so she has him Heinz, and she like trains him to associate Heinz 57 with 57 communists.
And that ties in with old John Kerry and his Skull and Bones connection.
Inadvertently, I think so.
Inadvertently, right?
Yeah, but I think that the interesting thing is that then he can remember it because he symbolized the number 57 in his brain with communism and Heinz 57. And that's an NLP technique, is like to associate things together. Right, so that if you
and that's going to help you bring out this suppressed memory.
It's a mnemonic device, but it's also an NLP device. One of the other things that you see in this film that's very interesting and subtle is the fusing of these personalities with other people. So they fuse Senator Iselin with Abraham Lincoln, and it's kind of a foreshadowing because this guy will be shot and killed at the end. And they do the same thing with Eleanor Iselin and the Queen of Diamonds. So that's really something else. I'm trying to just go through this. This is when Sinatra discovers that these people are all like communist spies and secret agents. And they get drunk together. The Queen of Diamonds shows up. They see 11 in the background, and then the main character goes and jumps in the lake. And then this is the military psychiatrist. He says, obviously the solitaire game serves as some kind of trigger mechanism. Let's concentrate on the face guards because of their symbolic identification of human beings. She says, I want my steak cooked at 11 for 11 minutes each side. Jeez. So she like uses the number 11. Here she is as the queen, right? She's dressed up as the queen. So the card and the queen fuse together. And there's a bust of Abraham Lincoln. He's manipulated. Then this queen inadvertently comes in and it triggers him. This is his love interest. She's confused. She's the other queen. Sinatra breaks his programming by giving him a loaded deck of all Queen of Diamonds. Then Raymond Shaw kills these people over a checkerboard floor, total Masonic checkerboard floor, which is pretty crazy. And then in the book, she is an incest. She has sex with her son. She basically rapes her son while he's in a hypnotic trance. In the book, they don't show it in the film. It was way too racy, I guess, for that time. And then he dresses up as a priest to commit the assassination at the very end. But yeah, here's all these things I mentioned, the 11s and stuff like that.
Jeez.
But
do you think that they produced these films and the book possibly as part of the mind control program with these triggers in mind to show the potential assassins or other mind control victims and put them in some type of hypnotic state using the film, the book, because you also mentioned, Catcher in the Rye, and it feels like these products are produced as a tool of mind control to me, not just for fiction for the public mind.
I think that JFK was trying to use these films, including Manchurian Candidate and 7 Days of May, which was also directed by John Frankenheimer. I think he was knowingly using them to get information before the public, that this was kind of going on behind the scenes. I think he had either really good information or hinted that this was going on. 7 Days in May came out in January of 1940, and it's about a coup of the United States. The 7 days of the 7-day coup, military plot to take over the government. And so I think he knew that this was going on. He was actually involved in the filming of 7 Days in May because they wanted to shoot at the White House. So he actually took the weekend off so that Frankenheimer could be on site on the White House before JFK is shot to shoot scenes on the White House, like in the White House, or, they basically were in the White House or in certain parts. So I think that JFK was deliberately doing this and okaying, green lighting these films. So, and Frankenheimer is a stalwart Democrat. He's a total left winger at that time. So he's part of the left wing team, so to speak. So yeah, so I think they're seeding the ideas. I don't think they're using them as trigger mechanisms or anything like that. So that's 7 Days in May. Then also Strangelove comes out the beginning of 1940. That's also an important book about craziness. Sirhan, that's 68. Something's wrong. He's split brains. He's into the occult. He repeats phrases over and over. Mind control, things like that. There's all kinds of memorandum. And that's basically it, yeah. He was in and out of the hospitals and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot in. That's kind of that's it. That's my hour.
All right, William. Let's plug your stuff. Your head is kind of low there on the screen, so
sorry,
you covered up your face. But I wanted to. There's your website right there. William Ramsey's Investigates. WilliamRamseyInvestigates.com. Anywhere else we shall direct
my
people
podcast.
to follow?
Yeah, my podcast is in the top 0.5% podcasts in the world. You can check that out. William Ramsey Investigates on Spotify or Spreaker. And then I have 5 books on Amazon and 5 documentaries on my Patreon, where I post stuff that I wouldn't post on my social media. So my Patreon, if you want to chat with me or whatever, go check it out. You only pay $5 a month and you can watch 5 documentaries and also watch all my interviews without ads.
And you're doing shows how many a week? A lot, right? You're interviewing author after author after author. It's hard to even keep up with all the work that William Ramsey Investigates is putting in here now, but out there independently reporting. And like I said at the beginning, you're doing these deep dives into the cult. And I listen to some of your shows. I'm like, wow, I never thought of that, making these connections that you wouldn't even think unless you listen to William Ramsey. You'll be like, holy, I cannot believe these connections behind the scenes and you interview other investigators as well, and connecting all these dots. And you're like, oh, wow, this is just I think you're proving beyond any doubt that the dark occult are the puppeteers behind the scenes here now, orchestrating the very large majority of world events, if not all world events, pushing us toward their one world government agenda.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think it really is. That's the core. These people are Satanists, man. So it's really just the old battle between good and evil. But the Satanists come out at the demon, like Lucifer is an angel of light. So that's kind of what confuses people, So
that's an excuse the Freemasons say, right? There's videos on the interwebs you could find where they're low-level Freemasons, 3rd degree. They're like, hey, we're serving Lucifer, the Lord of the Light, and they're like, what? What are you talking about?
Right? They say, bring the light, the bringer of the light. They use that word. So do Bailey and all these other people at the, UN and all that stuff. We are in in trouble. There's a lot of really dark actors out there, and some of these films expose them. And I think that Manchurian Candidate, in the book and the film, they were kind of trying to show the public this is possible. And I think that's the importance of it. And you can go through the list of all these people recently that are very strange. Like, we don't know some of the background. Some of these people are handled. Like, I think that the guy Peyton Gendron, who drove, for some strange reason, drove all the way to Buffalo, New York, and shot that place up. He had some kind of FBI handler or something like that.
He was reportedly talking to feds on message boards on the interwebs right before he did it. And the guy he killed was supposedly this alternative energy guy that was going to roll his technology out to the world. And coincidentally enough, he got whacked over there.
This guy, Tyler Robinson of Charlie Kirk, is supposedly a Redditor online all the time. And if you read my book, Old Global Death Cult, almost all those guys are radicalized by just being online all the time. They don't have face-to-face contact with people. They're on Iron Forge or some other thing. And, hey, have you heard about the far right? So get outside, touch some grass this weekend, spend time with family, put down your phone, enjoy the fresh air, get some sunlight, recharge your mitochondria, and stay safe. But yeah, I mean, the one of the things about all these shooters too is that their internal connections aren't looked into. Like you said, like they're just going to cut and dry this case on Robinson. We got him, we're done, but they're not going to look deeper into like who's he talking to.
They're already calling for the death penalty. It's like that's why due process in this country is so important, because the government can make any claim they want against you in the media, and they're going to say you're guilty. And it's like, wait a minute. We have due process, rule of law, allegedly, in this country, so you can't just make accusations against somebody. It has to be proven in court, and you have to be convicted by a jury or peers to get the death penalty. For example, as they're calling for this Robinson character now. And so the large majority of the public mind already says case closed, he's convicted, the government told me on television, we're done deal. It's like, no, come on, that's not even our system. That's insane. That's tyranny. That's the system of tyranny under King George that we fought the Revolutionary War against, this type of behavior by the government. But MAGA seems to have forgotten all this.
Yeah, no, it's the process is part of the thing, because then discovery and all the information comes forward.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that happened in those major assassinations in the 60s, at least of MLK and RFK, is both of the perps pled guilty, so that there wasn't anything. They didn't have to go to trial.
And the Aubrey Oswald, before we got anything, he got whacked. He got whacked by Jack Ruby, and then Jack Ruby mysteriously dies of a turbo cancer. You know what I mean? So on and on it goes with the cover-up, no trial, no discovery. All the evidence we got is what we can trust from coming out of the government, which ain't a whole hell of a lot.
And he's not valid. Like, they actually, I think that West called Ruby a schizophrenic or something like. So they discredited him psychologically, or maybe tampered with him or something like that. But he seemed unhinged, and they gave him like massive doses of like radiation or something like that too. Like, so they had to get rid of him too. Like, these are really dark things. Like, these are really bad news. So when these assassinations happen, a lot of times people surrounding them die too. So like, yeah, I don't know. Like, because there seems to be other people involved just in my cursory overview of this Kirk thing. And so they may really want to control this, and whoever else is involved online or something, I don't know. We will see. But it is a shame. And Charlie Kirk was way too young. And I think that that's kind of like the other thing, the demoralization. Like, that guy could have added so much more in a long life. And it's almost like assassinating takes this light out of the world, you know? It's almost like killing some of the, like Christ or the apostles or something like that. Like, they're no longer here to, lift people up. Because I think that's what Charlie Kirk was really doing. I don't, you could label him conservative or whatever, which is fair, but he seemed to cross racial boundaries. They call him a racist, but it's not true. He's always hanging out. Like, one of his best friends was Candace Owens. Like, come on, man. This doesn't make sense. So anyway, it's a shame.
Right. It is. It's a very tragic event. I hope, and it always feels like the government never let a good crisis go to waste. They're going to use this for more gun control, more taking away of our freedoms, and it feels like every bad thing that happens, the government is always going to use that against us.
You are right. You are right. It's
All
always
right,
we're the target, man. We're the target. So.
You and I agree with what you said as well. Unplug from the internet. Don't let it radicalize you too much. Don't get too down. We're going to keep going here, but yeah, bless Charlie Kirk and bless you, William, for
God
all of
bless
your
you
hard
too.
work. And a reminder again, that big MK Ultra lawsuit is going on out of Canada, and so we need to keep tracking that as just keep exposing more stuff about this, and it's definitely all very real and very well documented at this point, and more to come. And so we're going to continue to cover it here at Weaponized News. I'm sure William Ramsey investigates well as well. Thank you very much, William, and I'm going to go back and re-watch Manchurian Candidate as well, but maybe I need to decompress after the whole Charlie Kirk thing. As always, everybody do your own research. Peace, love, and freedom. Speak out and take action. Have a great rest of your Friday evening. We'll see you back here on Monday for more Weaponized News. Thank you again, William Ramsey, investigates.com.